This has to be Scotland Yard. They are the only ones who sends messengers to me. Vampires in London? I thought I had killed all of them. This seems dubious to me, but deserves my careful inspection.
Professor Van Helsing, the clerk's body is in the other room. We called you because we saw those dreaded marks on his neck. Jack, be careful to make a rush to judgment. I have eliminated all their bloodlines in London long ago. Nonetheless, I promised you I would examine the victim.
Jack, that is not blood. Those are burn marks. But I could see how you could confuse this with Nosferatu. I will need to research this some more.
Jack wondered why I took this case if it wasn't the work of a vampire, but I have seen enough corpses to know something was off here. I didn't need any book to tell me what this could be. Burn marks suggested this was possibly the work of a demon. But in East London? Why couldn't they have contacted my good friend Mr. Holmes? In any event, for now, I will have to set aside my other adventures to concentrate on this.
Jack, I have a hunch this is a demon of the underworld. But even with my fantastic volume of books, I will need much more to go on. So unfortunately, we have to wait for another attack. Please let me know of any case that even has the slightest connection to the first victim. I understand, Professor Van Helsing. I will also tell the coroner to keep an eye out for anything unusual. Now let's down some of this porter.
As I waited to hear back from Jack, I continued working on a commission to build the Royal Aquarium. The tank would be put on display in the Summer Gardens at Westminster. The public has an insatiable appetite for the natural world. In theory, the tank would house creatures from the deep sea. Luckily, the zoology part of this will be left up to someone else. The aquarium will be surrounded by fountains, palm trees, and exotic shrubs. To handle the immense pressure of so much water, I had to create 3-inch glass plates. With glass that thick, I could fire my Enfield revolver at it, and probably only a slight mark would show for my efforts. In any event, this will be a very profitable project.
Professor Van Helsing, you asked me to inform you of anything unusual. A man was severely beaten to death by an unknown instrument. The coroner found a lone but very tiny burn mark on his leg. Some of his bones were shattered so badly it's as if someone beat him with a sledgehammer over and over.
Okay, Jack, you've done well. Please send over both case files along with the evidence box. I will look into this matter some more. I pored over all the evidence many times over. There was one peculiar evidence bag that contained some green moss and small pieces of stone. Where could that have come from? There wasn't a lot of moss in London, but there was enough of it to make this hard to track. Jack was convinced the cases were different. But there was a connection, the unusual burn marks. Still, Jack was not entirely wrong. Why were the victims attacked in such a different manner? One had only minor injuries while the other was completely decimated. The first victim might have been possessed and simply died after the demon exited his body. At this point, we cannot know for sure what exactly happened. The next host, though, could not have been human, since no human, possessed or not, was capable of delivering those types of blows. In fact, I know of no animal in London, short of the zoo, that could approach that level of force. Clearly, we were dealing with some sort of monster that I was unaware of. While the possession of a non-human host is a rare phenomenon, it is documented in the darker annals of history. Should this be the case here, then everyone in London stands in mortal danger. Now, studying notes and books can only take you so far. But when there is no solid lead, you just have to get out there and start walking the streets. And that was not such a bad thing, because I consumed way too many calories eating all those roast dinners, breakfast rolls, and fruit-filled cakes. So I spent more time examining the crime scenes. I also talked to the constables, locals, and even the blackguards. I have discovered many things in the past doing just that. After days of walking, I finally noticed something that was quite clearly out of place. I dared not even turn my head to give anything away. But these two gargoyle statues had an important clue: moss and stone. Moss was very rarely found in East London because of the thick pollution. Even more strange was just how spotless these statues were. These were the cleanest statues I had ever seen in East London, or all of London for that matter. Could these finally be the beasts I had been looking for all this time? I needed to make a visit to the caretaker to get some more answers.
This is a Scotland Yard investigation. Might I ask you, when was the last time you cleaned those two gargoyle statues in the front of the building?
I must say, I don't like the tenor of your voice. Should I ask you when you killed one of those greasy little vampires? Be off with you.
Jack, I think I've done it. I have discovered where the demon resides, and it's a bad one. It has somehow taken over the gargoyles at Hertford Place. How could it take over a statue? Are you sure this isn't a stone golem? This sort of creature makes no sense. But when you've been in this business as long as I have, you begin to realize nothing rarely makes sense. So what help can Scotland Yard provide to you? Well, I've reviewed the crime locations and have a pretty good idea where it's going to strike next. I don't want anyone else in harm's way, so I will make myself the target. I will need to make preparations. Meanwhile, please set up surveillance on the gargoyles, but do it from an extreme distance. I will work on getting that all set up. We have some of the latest telescopes at our disposal. I will keep you informed if anything else comes up.
But unfortunately, Jack's surveillance team was spotted. One of the gargoyles yanked a detective right off a roof. No one knows what happened to him, but we can only surmise.
After that episode, the whole team went underground. At least we confirmed one key detail: there was only a single gargoyle involved. Defeating the gargoyle and its inner demon required a three-stage strategy. First, I had to get close enough to the gargoyle without it detecting my humanity. Next came the hardest part, disabling the creature long enough to strike. Finally, the easiest step, driving an iron stake through the stone to destroy the demon lurking within. The first step required a unique kind of protection. While I was no alchemist by trade, my travels had forced me to dabble in their volatile arts. Sometimes this was met with success, other times with singed eyebrows. To slip past the gargoyle's demonic senses, I needed to mask my soul's spiritual signature. If it worked, the beast might momentarily mistake me for a practitioner of the dark arts. I thumbed through my tome until I found it. Satan's Shroud. The recipe was grim: ash from a black candle, some of my own blood, and a handful of grave dirt. If rubbed over my chest, it just might keep me invisible. The day had finally arrived. By now, the gargoyle was well on its way. With the building evacuated, it would just be me against the beast. I'd also have my answer regarding the powder's effectiveness rather instantly. Either it worked, or I was a dead man. I would soon find out. All we found was a hole, Van Helsing. Scotland Yard paid for all the repairs to the building, but we found nothing else there. So I know you couldn't have killed the demon by setting a trap on the roof. So you have to tell me what happened to it. I decided to satisfy Jack's curiosity. I explained that the aquarium I was building had sparked the idea. I would transform the building's foundation into one massive pool of holy water. The gargoyle would be too heavy to climb out, and the demon couldn't touch the water without burning, leaving them both hopelessly trapped. The stake would act as a lightning rod, funneling the purifying energy of the water directly into the demon's core. I couldn't imagine a more absolute exorcism. I explained to Jack that after the demon fell into the pool, I descended the tower stairs and drove the stake into its head. And that, my friend, concludes our business. And next time, unless it's vampires, assign the case to the great Sherlock Holmes. And with that, I returned to my manor house. I received an invite to the premiere of The Aquarium. Since this was from the Duke himself, I had to make an appearance, or I would never again receive another invite. That is how British high society works. The aquarium itself was a huge hit, even though there were no creatures of the deep sea. I did, however, get to add my own special addition to it that sparked quite a bit of conversation. And that, as they say, is the end of the story.